Welcome to Lux Research and our Innovator Leader Profile. Today, we have the pleasure and privilege of speaking with the president of TDK Ventures, Nicolas Sauvage. Nicolas, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. We're really excited to have you here on our show. Let's start with getting a little bit of introduction about you and TDK. And I know you've been there quite a long time, so let's just warm up with that.
Thank you, Marisa, for having me today.
I'd love to get to know you a little bit, or I know you well, but for our audience to know a little bit about TDK Ventures and also your role there as president.
So TDK Ventures is a corporate VC arm of TDK. TDK is a tech firm that many people know as the company doing the cassette quite a few decades ago. We have moved on quite a bit. So we are a B2B business today, delivering to the best customers in the world in, for example, mobile and EV cars and all the innovative solutions that you end up with. And so we have battery solutions, power supply, sensors, passive components, basically everything that powers the innovative products today, we are inside.
That's an amazing story of transformation. And you've been at the helm of that transformation, I'm sure, with a number of leaders there at TDK in terms of bringing the organization into growth areas through your investments. Talk a little bit about what you do in your role and what your team does.
Yeah, I think there are many, many leaders in TDK who are driving innovation. So I'm the head of the corporate VC, and our mission is a mission of exploration. So we're looking at new market and new technology, new use case, new business cases. So we're not looking at the current business, current market. We're not also looking at the adjacent, which is new market with existing technology or new technology with existing market, where our R&D teams and our M&A teams and some of our business groups also look at expanding where we can contribute more to society. But we're really looking at this fourth quadrant, the one where it's new market, new technology. And as a consequence, we need to think about which entrepreneurs are building the future in the mega trends that TDK cares about, which are very well defined in our annual reports every year. Mm-hmm. And that becomes our investment scope. And so as a corporate VC, we're trying to understand where these mega trends are going, what type of markets we would want to address. And maybe if we think about innovation, it means doing something that has not been done before. That's what the entrepreneurs we are backing do all the time. But that's also what we want TDK to think about, is what could be the first to market solutions we want to build in these mega trends. And working with these entrepreneurs who are building the future really helps us to actually have a sense of where to go and where not to go, which is a definition of strategy.
It's interesting you picked the hardest box to do, which is new technologies and new markets. It's truly breakthrough innovation.
But it's the most exciting too.
How do you define innovation? What does innovation mean to you and in context of TDK?
So first, TDK has a very strong core value of contribution to society. So, and you will see how it links to business very quickly. If we think about contribution to society, it means we deliver value to society that society wants. And the way to do it is to create new products which customers, the market wants. And so if we really think about a positive contribution to society, it actually is a very good filter in thinking about how our product are helping our customers, our partners to be more successful, bringing value to the market, to their own customers. And so we like to think about contribution to society as being one of these wonderful filter on everything we do at TDK, but also in TDK Ventures in terms of what we look to invest or not to invest. And that first to market solution, when we think about a tech firm like TDK, it's really where all the margins are too. So if you want to be able to reinvest in the future new technologies, you need to do well today. And so we really look at what could be the solutions where we are first to market. We help our best partners, our best customers to be successful together.
Excellent. What is, as you think about How long have you been there? At least 10 years, correct? It's been
No. So
no?
TDK acquired acquired
Oh,
InventSense in 2017. So I was in
okay.
InventSense at the time of the acquisition. 2018 is when I proposed to do the corporate VC to TDK.
Mhm.
It was fully supported by the CEO by the end of 2018. 2019, April 1st is when we launched the CVC. And actually, a tidbit, 2 days ago is when we celebrated our 5 years anniversary from our
Ah,
very first investment, which was Starship.
well,
So
congratulations.
let's say I've been there for 5 years, TDK Ventures, full operation.
That is a milestone I am sure you're very proud of, as well as your team. If
I'm
you
very
think
proud of the
back
team. Yes.
to the beginning, has your definition of innovation changed since that inception?
I think it will maybe sadden you, but our definition hasn't changed. We still look at engaging with entrepreneurs, building what I call an equal win. So many people talk about win-win when they do synergies or partnership. But if you think about a small startup, early stage, and a big company, that typically means a small win and a big win.
Mhm.
And 2 years later, what happens is whoever gets a small win moves away. Whoever thought they had a big win have nothing. And so what we really try to do at TDK Ventures is start from an equal win. Make sure this is something that's going to be a partnership sustainable over many, many years. Build real intimacy and strong partnership basis to be partners for decades. So that's what we really look. And so we really want to engage with entrepreneurs who are building that future that we want. And maybe later on I will talk about the backcasting concept, but the intent is really identifying what could be innovative and contributing to society.
That your brilliant strategy hasn't changed is a testament to really good strategic leadership. You should be changing your strategy a lot anyhow, so that you're
But maybe I should say, so our filter is still to get to this first to market solution. So influencing
Mhm.
TDK to build that first to market solutions, also knowing where not to go. But now I'm thinking about the next 5 years, and I think now we're at the point where we need to increase that ambition. And it should be first to market solutions that have the potential to move the needle to the $1 billion type of level of impact for TDK and for our own customers. So I think that we're going to have this equal win filter that was added about 2-3 years ago. And now we are looking at how do we make this ambition stronger in terms of not just first to market solution, but really the one that could really move the needle.
As you think about all of the projects and initiatives that you have done, what's the one you're most proud of and would like to showcase?
So I think one of the things that we've defined very early on is what we call TDK goodness. And TDK goodness is when we bring value to entrepreneurs, but also our investing partners and TDK and any in the ecosystem. But the real TDK goodness is when we deliver value, but it's not what we believe brought value, but actually what the entrepreneurs will validate was valuable to them. And so we have a really big database of TDK goodness. I think we have reached more than 2,000. I think we are probably soon at 2,500. And it's documented, but it's only added to the database when the recipient of that TDK goodness validate it was valuable to them. And about 2 years ago, we've even increased that with a granularity of marquee TDK goodness. And marquee TDK goodness is when the recipient validate it really moved the needle for them. So it was not just valued, but really moving the needle, like winning a big customers or identifying a market they had not thought about, but that's really important for them and they move towards it. And so what's interesting about this is most times it's very easy for us to think that we are adding value and believe what we think. We have to test it with a recipient, with a customer. And we see the entrepreneurs as our customer, the heroes of our stories. And so what that means is we need to make sure that when we add value, it is validated to be adding value. And this is also where we learn that sometimes what we thought was valuable was not really valuable. So we actually can calibrate and refine our strategy. And sometimes we discover something which thought was not going to be that valuable becomes really valuable. So that TDK goodness concept, I think, is proving extremely powerful because it drives the right behaviors in our team. We are not thinking about what we think is valuable, but we are really driven by what our customers are telling us they want.
Yeah.
And then we augment this, of course, with an annual survey, which follows the NPS methodology. And I'm quite proud of it because it's not that we care about the score, actually. It's what we get from the survey and how we act on that feedback. And so maybe I could share how we do that methodology if you'd like.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's only 3 questions, and I'm the one sending the emails, and we send it to minimum 3 people of each of our portfolio companies. So it's not just the person we know well, it's not just the CEO, it's at least 3 people inside the portfolio companies. And now we have 37 portfolio companies. So imagine that earlier this year, I sent more than 200 emails myself. Actually, with the follow emails, even more so. And the first question is really the NPS methodology. From 1, never, to 10, absolutely. How likely would you recommend TDK Ventures to another entrepreneurs? Now, there is clearly a twist, which is from an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, the bar is much higher than if I was to recommend to a friend or a colleague. There is a reputational stake in it. So the score is actually probably even more validated as a consequence. Now, the next 2 questions are actually the most important question. The second one is basically saying, what did we do well for you? And that helps us to know what we did well and we should double down. And sometimes we discover things we did that we didn't think was such a big deal, but if it's an open question and that comes up, that's really good to know. And also, this is also a chance for entrepreneurs to tell us who in my team has done something exceptional. Because I'm not asking, is there anyone in my team that did something well for you? They proactively, on an open question, mention someone in my team. And that happens more and more, which is really nice. And then the third question, and because the second question asks a positive, I think it gives a license for the entrepreneurs to be more transparent and critical on the third question is, what could we do better for you? And because they've gotten some positive, the next one, they really go for it. And they give us really feedback about, I wish you had a bigger check size. I wish your due diligence was not as heavy, or I wish you had communicated this earlier with us. And then we discuss as a team, and we meet once a year. It's called the Reflection Week. And we take all of these inputs, and then we decide what are the processes, what are the improvements, what are the messaging we should change so that we improve and we do better for our current entrepreneurs and the future entrepreneurs.
That aligns your essentially belief and culture around customer centricity, which you just essentially, described how you action customer centricity, is near and dear to our heart at Lux because innovation is really about human beings, and we're a big believer of human-centric innovation. And what you described, I think, is just an incredible example of thinking through your strategy and decisions around innovation, putting people at the center of that. And you've done it from asking input from your customers, your heroes, to then working with your team internally and the internal workflows and processes, and tied that all together through the entire spectrum, end to end, truly making it human-centric innovation.
I mean, at the end, it's about people. And when we think about venture capital, it's white glove service. We have deep respect for entrepreneurs who are risking what they are doing today to go and build a project of their life. We actually have a term which you can see on our website, which is we see the entrepreneurs as the ultimate impact scalers. And what we mean by that is it is their projects, their life's projects, to bring positive impact to the world and to scale it. And the way I like to think about is if VC or corporate VC done well, then we are the impact scalers behind the impact scalers because we can help them to scale and to be more impactful. And I wrote an article on Medium which is called Impact Scaler Squared, because we have this potential of not only helping our portfolio companies, but many, many others when we do well our job as a venture capital.
Sounds like you have a rich database of customer insights as well through this process that you do of survey. Is there anything remarkable or surprising that you've learned from those insights?
Well, I can tell you, when we did the first NPS survey, my team wasn't so keen to do it because you're always worried about what could come back. But one of the biggest surprise we had was it was very early stage companies, and we thought that what they want is, of course, capital and the superpowers that comes from TDK corporations, this equal win I mentioned. But actually, when we said, what else could we do better? We were very surprised that a few of them said, please help us with marketing. We have no brand. We don't know when to go out of stealth mode. We don't know how to write a press release. I mean, they didn't say it that way, but basically they were saying, please help us with marketing. And we did not expect that as an expectation on TDK Ventures. But as a consequence of that, when we met as a team, we decided, okay, let's create a role called marketing principal, whose job is to help our portfolio companies on their marketing journey and helping them to choose the right PR firm, choosing when to go out of stealth modes, helping them craft their very first press release, helping them with thinking about brand and positioning. That was a huge surprise of that first NPS survey, but that's how we acted upon it. And then if you think about our team today, most of our scaling team, which is all about helping our portfolio companies scale with less risk and faster, it's basically all coming from the feedback from these NPS surveys over the years.
That's a great testament to being agile and customer centric, but a wonderful story.
It's not just customer. So we also do this NPS survey to our investing partners, and we learn a tons from what we do well and what we could do better. And we do the same for TDK colleagues. So we also ask them, what could we do better? What have we done well? And so again, the score doesn't really matter, although it's nice to see how it trends over time. Is it up or down? But this also helps us to refine our processes, engaging better with TDK, which, to be honest, once we do that better, means that we can connect with the startups we don't invest in and the portfolio companies we have invested in to work better together. So I would say the NPS is amazing for customers, but I would not limit it for customers. It could also be your peers. It could be your colleagues. There's so much you can learn just by asking 3 simple questions.
Exactly. So let's turn on to the NPS for Lux, or what your perception of value is, because you've been working with us for a number of years. We very much value the partnership we have with TDK. What is it that gets you excited about working with Lux?
Yeah, so I'll speak as a VC first. I think that's probably for the audience who are venture capitalists. I think that will matter, especially if they're in deep tech. I think Lux is bringing us a lot of insights that are not obvious in a space that we want to explore. And therefore, in a way, it's accelerating our deep explorations. And maybe I should explain what is our deep explorations. So we are investment thesis driven at TDK Ventures, but many VCs and CVCs also are. So I think that's why it's relevant to explain that in the context of Lux. And what that means is we decide a topic, and when I say we, it's the investment team deciding what they are passionate about, what they want to explore. It's basically bottom-up, passion-driven, and ultimately conviction-driven. And what that means is they will pick a topic that they know very little about, and they are going to learn as much as they can within a few months, sometimes 6 months, but typically 3 to 4 months. And they will learn as much as they can by meeting as many entrepreneurs as possible, but also big companies, potential customers, board members, basically the full gamut into a given space. And by the way, we share which deep explorations are ongoing right now on our website. So if you check on our website now, you can see that we are doing a deep exploration in geothermal. We are doing a deep exploration on software for factories. So it's something that they really need to go deep, build conviction from first principle, surface these convictions, being challenged by our own team. So we have a process to ensure that we fully leverage our diversity of thoughts in our team. And then if we really build conviction, then go all the way to an investment. And we don't need consensus for that, which I think is a key part of VC. But it's very hard to start. It's a bit like if you wanted to start a book, probably the first chapter is the hardest chapter and everything else is easier. And I find that Lux is helping us to get started very quickly on the topic by having a beautiful landscape, which, to be honest, I think for corporate customers is probably all they need. In the case of VCs, we want to go where no one has gone before, so we need to go deeper. But you give us that acceleration. So that I think I'm extremely grateful because you are covering so many different topics, which happens to be the topics of interest for us.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so let's go into leadership. And I'm interested to know, as you reflect about your career and working with other leaders, a leader yourself, what are the top 3 qualities you believe reflect really good leadership?
So I remember when I was in British Telecom, so that was my first engineering job. There was this slogan on the wall, and it was team, TEAM, equal, together everyone achieves more. And I thought that was so
That is good.
strong.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course I've improved upon it over time, but I think there is nothing you can achieve on your own. But if you find a way to work with an amazing team and you find a way to assemble an amazing team that's really passionate, that has very strong convictions, that shares the same core values and the same shared purpose, you can achieve anything. And then if you are very good at building strong equal win partnership within the ecosystem, nothing can stop you. So I would say that, and it's easier said than done, but assembling a good team that love working together, that have a mission that they wake up in the morning excited about every morning, that's probably step 1. And that step 1 already gets you so far compared to nearly everyone else. I think there is an element to it, and maybe I'll give an analogy of how I think about diversity and inclusion later. But one thing that's very important for me is what I call transparency and empowerment. And actually TDK use that a lot. And I think this is where I'm so lucky to work in TDK, where their values and their way of thinking resonate so well with the way I was already thinking about. But if you think about empowerment, it really means I trust you to do this job. And of course, there is some granularity depending on who you're managing. So maybe it's about, once you get to a conclusion, let me know where you are and I can guide you. Or it's, I trust you, just inform me of your decision, to the point where it's, you run with it, you don't even need to let me know. So there is different, of course, level of empowerment, but empowerment is key for good people who are really, like I said, passion driven and with a mission. They are going to do amazing things if you, as a manager or the leader, are not slowing them down. And so you need to earn it, which is a part of transparency. And in TDK Ventures in particular, but I've done this in my previous companies, we have weekly updates. At the end of every week, everyone shares what they learned. Not what they did, but what they learned. And what's nice about it is I basically protect the Friday afternoon for everyone in our team, where they can just reflect on the week. They can write their weekly update, they can think about what happened, they can finish some meeting notes. And then I protect the Monday morning. And by protecting means no meetings, no texting, and so on. And the Monday morning is protected to read everyone else's weekly updates, which means that everyone in the team gets to learn from everyone else 1 week. And so you end up with leveraging the full reflection of the team for moving into the new week. And so that transparency is augmented by having this very fast, full team learnings over time. So that would be, I think, so the together everyone achieves more was, I think, a key one. Empowerment and transparency, I think, is very, very important. And in our case for VC, it's even more important, but I think it's a good trait for anyone, is curiosity. And curiosity is actually extremely hard to assess in an interview. And but this, I think, matters because you want people to get energy when they learn new things, who are going to ask the next question, which is not obvious, and they are going to try to seek these golden nuggets. And if you think about VC, it means that you know something before everyone else. You have the ability to identify, I like to think about 2 years early, before everyone else. You start to have conviction about something that's going to happen 2 years before it starts to become visible. And it shouldn't be 4 years, it shouldn't be 5 years, because then you have real challenge to then get funding for the companies you backed. But if you're 2 years before that, then I think you have a good chance for 2 years later, it starts to be visible, you start to have investors joining you. And of course, 4 years later, you start to have everyone seeing it. And then, of course, it becomes priced in. And if you start to have that contrarian view that doesn't last more than 2 years, you're going to do very well. But to build that contrarian view, you need curiosity. There's no way around it. And so I'm looking for people that loves to learn, keep asking questions, are not satisfied with vanilla type of answers.
And courage too. I would think that they would need courage to be that curious in the work you do.
Yeah, I think the courage is more, we see the courage more when they've built huge conviction into a space and they are so close to want to make an investment. And we go through what we call our devil's advocate session. And despite all the hard work, they listen to the team and they say, you know what? I spent 500 hours on this. I am sure this is an important company, but indeed there are some yellow flags and I'm not going to invest. That actually is where I see real courage in my team, is when they decide, despite all the hard work and their conviction, they do listen to the team and the signals they are giving, and they decide not to invest. That I think is real courage.
It is so much harder to deselect than select.
Absolutely. And it's I think we will never be perfect, but I definitively want to highlight that when my investment team decides not to do an investment they spend so much time on, that's true courage.
Absolutely.
And smartness.
Absolutely. So there's some aspiring leaders listening to you talk about leadership. What would be some recommendations or advice you would give them?
Well, so I have a very strong bias on decision making. So I've studied decision making, I'm teaching decision making. So
Oh, really?
whenever I have a chance of a group of 20 to 40 people, I have a 2 hour decision making training that I give that I think change their lives, because if you can make a little better decision in your life or at work, it will have exponential impact for you, either with your family, your friends, or even your career. So I like to think about how can we make better decisions, and I tried in TDK Ventures to set processes that drives better decisions. And of course, VC is very different from corporations because we live under different laws. If you think about corporations, they live under the distribution law, which means that most of the project will do well. Very, very few will do badly, and never exceptionally well, basically. It's all kind of condensed. And if you think about the quality of the management team, it's how much will shift to the right, which means that more and more projects will do better. That's basically what corporations have to do. And the reason is very simple, is they would be penalized by swinging for the fence. They need predictability, and predictability doesn't come with making big bets, very high risk, very high reward. This is totally the opposite for VC. In VC, we live under a law of high uncertainty. Many of the startups will not make it. Extremely few will do extremely well. And that's what is called the power law. And so if you think about it from a portfolio, you can manage the risk as a portfolio level, because even though many will not make it, which basically means you lose 1x, some of them will do 3x to 5x, and hopefully you get a few which are fund returners, which will do a 50x or 100x. And that means that you need to have a decision-making process that allows for making bets where someone has high conviction when no one else believes, which means you cannot drive for processes that favor consensus, while that's true and probably favorable for corporations. And so I think for leaders, your question back to leaders is think about your decision making in the context of your organization. Are you an organization that needs predictability? Are you an organization that needs extremely high returns for some, but not all of the investments? And how do you make sure the team understands the decision-making process?
That is a great way to end our conversation today. I want to thank you. Decision-making is near and dear to my heart. I am very much a believer in fact-based decision-making and taking the influence out, which is very hard to do. So it's a great advice. It was really fascinating listening and learning, and really appreciate your time. Thank you, Nicolas.
No, thank you, Marissa. It was a really good conversation.
All right. And thank you for participating in our Innovation Leader podcast. Look to you next time. Go change the world. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.